All right, so in this lesson, we're going to use the trig ratios that we set up in the last video to find missing sides. Again, we're dealing with right triangles only. Here's our chart that we looked at last time, that SOHCAHTOA, that the sine function represents the opposite side over the hypotenuse, that the cosine function represents the adjacent side over the hypotenuse, and the tangent side equals the opposite side over the adjacent side. And those are all in perspective of the angle that you're looking at. All right, so in this example, what we want to be able to do is kind of look at the steps that we need to go through to solve a missing side. So first you want to label your sides of your triangle, just like we did to get the ratio. So 53 is going to be the opposite side. This is the hypotenuse, and we do not and we're not looking for the adjacent side. So in this problem, let's keep going. So we labeled our sides. These things are kind of out of order, steps for solving a missing side. So then next we would want to write the trig ratio. So in this case, with what we're given, we can only solve for what we're given, which is the O and the H. So remember SOHCAHTOA, we have to figure out which trig function we can use. Well, if we only have opposite and hypotenuse, that's these guys, that means we have to use our trig function. So we're going to say that the sine of the angle that we're looking at, 53 degrees, is equal to opposite, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is 15. All right, and then we need to solve for x. So the way you're going to do, now every calculator is different. If you're using your phone calculator, you're going to have to look and see how that works at school on the school calculator. What I'm going to do is basically solve for x. So I need to multiply both sides by 15. You can also kind of think of this as cross multiplying with that as a 1. And then I'm going to multiply 15 by the sine of 53. Sine is a function in your calculator. So you're going to find that, and on the school calculators, you're going to want to enter 53, then hit the sine button, and then you're going to say times 15. Most likely on your phone calculator, it's going to be sine button, then 53, then times 15, or you can put it straight in order. Okay, so you're going to play around with that and see which one. Typically on the calculator, if it wants you to enter sine first, then it'll kind of show it with parentheses, and then you enter that, and then you'll know that you're doing it right. Okay, so however you get that entered on your particular calculator, then you're going to do that. And then the convention for trig is to leave 4 decimal places. I think for the video, just we want to do that because if you continue to use this in a calculation, if you round too much too quickly, it's going to put your numbers off. But we're just finding the value, so I think for the rest of the video, we'll just round to the nearest 10th place. I think will be sufficient. We'll just kind of have to watch our directions as we go. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so I'm going to label. Here's my right angle. This is my hypotenuse. I don't have the hypotenuse, and I'm not looking for the hypotenuse, so that's actually not going to matter here. This is my angle, so this is the opposite to it. This is adjacent to it. So I'm going to look at SOHCAHTOA and see which trig function I need. I need O and A, which is tangent. So I'm going to say the tangent of 30 degrees is equal to opposite x over adjacent, which is 15. In my calculator, I'm going to probably hit the buttons in this order. I'm going to say 30, then tangent, and then times 15. Okay. The calculator that I'm using here is a little bit different than that, but basically you're going to multiply 15 by tangent 30. However you need to do that in your calculator. All right, and I ended up with x equals 8.6602, so we'll just round that up to 8.7. Okay, so try your calculator and see if you get that same answer. Okay, here's another one. You got an airplane. Looks like he's taken off maybe. Labeling. Well, I don't need opposite for this. I do need the hypotenuse. And this one is adjacent. It's touching my angle. Okay, so who uses adjacent and hypotenuse? Well, that is cosine. So I'm going to say cosine of 60 degrees equals adjacent, h, over hypotenuse, 1000. Multiply both sides by 1000. Just solve for the height. So in my calculator, I'm going to enter 60 cosine times 1000, or whatever order you need to enter it in, and I ended up with h equaling 500. Now, this isn't in our notes, but just a little quick side note. This is 60 degrees, so this must be 30. If we go back to our special right triangles, what did we know? That this is 2x. So this would be half of that, 500. So special right triangles would have given you the answer 500. And then we would know that this is 500 times square root 3. There you go. All right, but anyway, that's just kind of a quick insert. Next one. All right, what do we have? The angle's here. This one is adjacent, it's touching. This one is across, that is opposite. We do not need the hypotenuse. All right, what we need is we need opposite and adjacent, so I need the tangent of 40 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. Okay, solve this by multiplying by 15. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 15 times tangent of 40, and I got x equals 12.5865. Rounding, I would just say 12.6. So see what you get. See if you can get that in your same calculator. All right, here's another practice. So sometimes all the ones we've done so far, it ended up where the variable was on top of the fraction, and now what happens when the variable is on the bottom. So let's do this one. Again, same idea. This is opposite, this is adjacent, this is hypotenuse. I need adjacent and hypotenuse to think about what trig ratio is that. Sine, oops, so so adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So I'm going to say the cosine of 43 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm going to be solving for p. So let's look at this. In order to solve this, let's kind of think of this as a cross multiply situation. So I would say, well then, p times cosine 43 equals 35, or multiply p on both sides, either way. But I need to get p by itself, so that means I would need to divide this by cosine 43. And so now I have p equals 35 over cosine 43. So here's what I'm going to do. Anytime my variable ends up on the bottom like this, I'm just going to switch these places. And we know from all of our work with proportions that should make sense, because when you cross multiply, it doesn't matter. So those two can switch places, no problem. And we can figure it out from there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to do 35 divided by cosine of 43 in my calculator. And when I do that, I ended up with 47.8565, and 47.85 would round up to 9. So see if you get that answer. Two more quick examples and then we'll be done. Okay, solve for side BC. So we're looking right here. That is, we'll call it X. All right, so this is opposite. This is adjacent. We're not using the hypotenuse. So that is our tangent function. Tangent of 52 equals opposite. SOHCAHTOA, opposite over adjacent. Okay. Variables on the bottom, so I'm going to switch places and I'm going to say x equals 12 over tangent 52. And I'm going to divide 12 divided by tangent 52. And I got x equals 9.3754. So I'll round that up to 9.4. And last one, solving for AC, same picture. Right here, x. So this is the hypotenuse. This is opposite. So SOHCAHTOA, that's the sine function. 52 equals opposite over hypotenuse. Switch places, x equals 12 over sine 52. Put it in your calculator and you get x equals 15 point round up 2282, rounds up to 2.2, or doesn't round actually. All right, so there's some examples: sine, cosine, tangent. Remember SOHCAHTOA. You're going to find out what two parts of the ratio you're using and use the right trig function that goes with those two parts. Put it in your calculator and you are all done. All right, have a good day. Bye-bye.